Matt, so if, you're sitting at home, you've been following along with the entire playlist for our picks. Great card, Teixeira, Smith in the main event. In just about every fight I've said, some of these fights are hodgepodge together. You get what you pay for with some of these cards. This is one of those fights that, hey, I got a pen in my hand, throw it out the window. I have no idea what we're doing here. At 265 pounds, you saw that right, because Ben Rothwell has been a heavyweight for the longest time. But OSP, forever. He has not. And we have Ovince St. Preux moving up to 265 pounds. In Ovince St. Preux's last fight, he finished Michael Olszewczuk, a guy that a lot of people are really high on in that division. He's taken on Ben Rothwell, a guy who is 1-3 in his last 4 fights. But there was a huge layoff between Fight 1 and Fight 2. So since he's been back with UFC, losses to Blagoy Ivanov and Andrei Arlovski, he beat Stefan Struve in his last fight after two cut checks, and I mean, he finished him, but Stefan Struve in pain in the face and in pain below the belt. And now we get this fight that's just so weird. What do you make of it?
So it's a really strange fight because the most people who beat Ben Rothwell just kind of volume him and frustrate him. If you go back to the JDS fight, even more recently the Andrei Arlovski fight, kind of a perfect example of what Andrei Arlovski's turned into in this stage of his career. A very good volume striker, but he doesn't hit you with a lot of power. OSP's kind of the opposite though. If you watch the Corey Anderson fight, which I do think is quite telling when you look towards this one, not a lot of volume, but the strikes he lands are going to put you down. I mean, he dropped Corey Anderson in the first round, dropped him in the second round, and then knocked out with the head kick in the third round. Even though you could honestly say he probably lost the first and second round because he got taken down so many times. And that's why it's really interesting. I think Ovince St. Preux does quite a bit better than Ben Rothwell. I think he's a much better striker. He throws kicks, something that Rothwell doesn't really do. It's weird, though, because the size discrepancy between these two, I think, is going to be major. OSP's a huge light heavyweight, don't get me wrong, and he is going to fit in quite well to the heavyweight division. I just think it's odd that they're making a light heavyweight's first fight at heavyweight against probably the biggest heavyweight possible.
It's really weird. I mean, Ovince St. Preux, you can see it on the screen, and those are the true stats from the UFC. He's going to have a reach advantage. He's going to have a leg reach advantage, something that he's really always had unless he fought John Jones at light heavyweight. Height is going to be pretty close, but Ben Rothwell consistently weighs in at 265. In his last fight, which he won against Stefan Struve, he weighed in at 266. So Ben Rothwell is one of the biggest heavyweights. Ovince St. Preux, I think he'll fit in fine at heavyweight. And I know Ben Rothwell had a quotable with MMA Fighting where he said light heavyweights are going to move up because they think that heavyweights suck. That was his quote. Ben Rothwell, you're kind of right. Like, I know what he's trying to get at, right? But this is such a weird fight. I mean, Ovince St. Preux, if he's going to win, he's probably going to finish you. Look at some of his weirder fights. Like I said, the Olszewczuk one is just one to pick out. And then he loses to Ilir Latifi, who's also moved up to 265. So just some weird ones. Weird track record. OSP a minus 160 favorite. Ben Rothwell coming in a plus 135 underdog. On Tapology out of 223 votes. 66% of fans thinking that OSP is going to win. The odds are close. The picks are close. I'm surprised it's not like a dead even heat because Ben Rothwell, since he's come back and he's 1-2, like he doesn't do that Ben Rothwell old, like the herky-jerky thing when he's moving out of the way and he's still pressing forward and he's landing some shots. But Ben Rothwell against Blagoy Ivanov and Andrei Arlovski, it was like, yeah, I mean, he was a punching bag, but somehow he won the fight because he kept moving forward.
Well, against Struve he won. Against those guys he lost. I think it's going to be interesting. OSP has a really, really good left body kick. Rothwell holds his hands so high that just to me, I think that body kick's going to land over and over and over again. And Ben Rothwell's path to victory, I would assume, is try to try to hold OSP against the cage. Really wear on him with all that extra body weight that you have. But I think the body kicks of OSP are going to kind of negate that cardio detractor, if you will. I think OSP's probably going to finish Ben Rothwell, but if Ben Rothwell just kind of holds him up against the cage for a long period of time and sort of makes it, and I hate to use this term, if he makes it a boring fight, it's a very winnable one for Ben Rothwell. But if he is going to go out there like he has in his more recent fights and accept a lot of damage, I think OSP hits quite a bit harder than at least Andrei Arlovski at this point in his career. And if you're eating that many shots against Arlovski, if you eat an equal amount against OSP, you're probably going to go down.
I'm going to be picking the fighter from the Knoxville Martial Arts Academy, a guy who's been there for a long time, and Ovince St. Preux. You're going with St. Preux as well? Yeah. Really looking forward to it. Interesting fight at 265. Who would have ever thought imaginable that we get Ben Rothwell and Ovince St. Preux? But you're going to want to keep it locked in with Fight Night picks. We've got the 3 cards in 8 days locked down here. Toss us a sub if you'd like. And Matt, as we always say with Fight Night picks, let's get into it.